You're not alone.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Salt Mines X-Wing podcast. That's right, a podcast dedicated to the backbone of the X-Wing community. I almost said sailors. People just like you who are trying to do what they can to get better at the game. And in today's episode, I want to compare our most recent, well, not ours, Gold Squadron's most recent Cala qualifier with Bohan's model of efficiency and kind of see how everything stacks up, see how good this model actually is. Now, before I get into that, just a couple of house cleaning notes. Just a reminder that I will be starting a giveaway if I can get 5 patrons or more. That will be, and there'll be a small ship giveaway. If I reach 10 patrons or more, it'll be a large ship, and if it's 15 or more patrons, it will be a Squadron pack, and I'll be starting that monthly. So if you're interested, please come and support the podcast at patreon.com/saltminesxwing. All right. We've been kind of jumping back and forth, still kind of getting a feel for what I'd like to do as a podcast. So jumping around, we did a couple episodes on sportsmanships and in terms of others. Usually what I do after one of these events is I'll break down all the 3-and-3 lists, and we'll kind of see what the mid-tier players were playing. I'm going to kind of get away from that, unless you'd like to see it. And if you would, please let me know. You can tweet me at saltxwing on Twitter, or you can shoot me an email at saltminesxwing@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to respond to those. And if you like seeing what the mid-range players are flying, please let me know, and I can always come back and do another episode on that. But in this episode, I want to look at Bohan's model and compare it to our top lists. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do top 16 or not. We'll see. We'll see where the time goes on that. But I definitely want to compare it. Now, there's a couple of things that some of you probably already know, and I'm just going to point out, is that yes, as a matter of fact, this model that Bohan has, which let me go ahead and pull it up. Let's do the desktop view here. The model that Bohan has doesn't include the latest Squadron packs. So it's not going to have cards like Discipline. It's not going to have ships like Hera or Vader and the Defender. But that's not the point. What I want to look at is where our top lists scored as far as overall efficiency. Kind of see how put the real world test to Bohan's list. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in, and we're going to start out with our number one, who was Andrew here, who is flying Benthic 2 tubes with Perceptive Co-Pilot, Leia and Pivot Wing, Kyle Katarn with Jenna Urso, Moldy Crow, Garvin Dreas with just the S-foils, and Hera with Tracers. Now, if you want an in-depth list of, or in-depth dive into how to fly this list, listen to the Fly Better podcast. They spend a lot of time on it, as well as the Gold Squadron podcast, which spent a little bit of time with it. I believe Fly Better had Andrew on there, so if you want to hear it from the horse's mouth, that's the one that I would go to. So with that said, let's see where the ships that do fall in kind of fall in on that efficiency scale. So we're going to go in here and we're going to look for Garvin Dreas in the X-Wing and see. So Garvin Dreas in the X-Wing is just about appropriately costed, right in there. So we know that's good. What about Kyle Katarn? Kyle Katarn. Ooh, so Kyle is actually shown as slightly more efficient for the points than what you can normally get. So that's actually good to see. So far we're kind of seeing that in Bohan's list. And 2 tubes, benthic 2 tubes. Let's see if we can find that in here. Not even mentioned. Benthic 2 tubes, here we go. With Perceptive Copilot is actually slightly overcosted. So kind of interesting to see that. But I think the key to this list here is being able to pass all the focus tokens around. So interesting to see. All right, now we're going to number 2, which is Vivek. And he was flying Colonel Jendon with the jamming beam and 4 Tempest Squadron pilots, 3 of them with fire control system. So let's see where those fall into. We'll start with Jendon. Colonel Jendon, efficient for his cost. Not surprised to see that. And the Tempest Squadrons actually are efficient for their costs as well. So seeing those together, according to Bohan's model, we shouldn't be surprised if this was made it high in the list. Now let's look at our top 4, which I just saw one. So we'll go with the Resistance, which we've got Zari with Intimidation, 3 Red Squadron Heroics with S-Foils, and then Rose 3PO. So let's see where all of those come in. So we'll start with Rose Tico. She's a little bit undercosted, not too much, so not surprised to see her. What about Zari? A little bit overcosted, Zari. And then we said these were the Red Squadron in the T70, which with Heroic we're looking at undercosted for what they should be, so about 10.5. So again, we're looking at another confirmation where Bohan's model is accurately, I won't say predicting, but accurately representing ships that were undercosted as doing well as part of a list. So next, we're going to scroll down here to Merrick Kemp, who is flying Outmaneuver Whisper, Major Vendor, and Captain Kagi. So a revamped Hatchet Man. If you're not familiar with the list, check out the Barons. They initially came up with this list, and it's actually kind of a neat little story behind it. So check out their podcast. But let's go back to Bohan's model and see where Whisper falls in. So Whisper with 5th Brother is costed appropriately where she should be. Whisper by herself is a little bit overcosted. We don't see Whisper with Outmaneuver on here, and that's okay. But we can see it's about appropriately costed. Next we've got Vendor and Captain Kagi. So let's throw Vendor in here, see what we got. It works better when I spell it correctly. Major Vendor is slightly overcosted, and he's got all the toys on him. So with that, we're seeing Vendor is slightly overcosted. So Whisper where she should be, Vendor slightly overcosted. Let's see if Kagi shows up in his model where we should see him. Kagi slightly undercosted. So interesting to see that the undercost of Kagi doesn't quite outweigh the overcost of Vendor, but I think that just goes to show how great of a ship Whisper is. in kind of pulling this list together. All right. Next we want the top 8. So we've got Grievous, Zam, and Brewer. This is a hyperspace list. We already know that this is a good list. Let's see where these ships fall in. So again, my spelling. Let's look at general. Alright, so Grievous is showing, he's costed about where he should be. A little bit efficient for his thing, but that's definitely within the margin of error. Zam, Wessel, and the fire spray is way undercosted for what he's supposed to be. And then Brewer. Did I spell it right? Probably not. And Brewer is actually, well, listed here as undercosted, but I'm not sure what he means by the buff by target lock. Now we gotta look it up. Let's see what Brewer does. Separatists, Nantex. Brewer reads, after you perform an attack that hits, each friendly ship with a calculate on its action bar and a lock on the defender may perform a red calculate action. So basically a blank pilot ability for this list. So just an I5 Nantex. So, and kind of see it, but you're seeing overall efficient in there. So not surprised to see that. Our next 8 is Dan Copens running a Jakku Gunrunner with Protectorate Gleb and Afterburners and 3 Zealot Recruits. Actually, I really like that list. Let's see where the Zealous Recruits fall on. Zealous Recruits costed about where they should be according to his model. A little bit undercosted, but what about the Jakku Gunrunner? Is costed where it should be. So what I would expect to see here is that Protectorate Gleb is undercosted for what that card does. So again, we're seeing Bohan's model confirm what we expect what we expect to see from the list. Let's hit our next 8. Ooh. All right, Stefan Keel running Zam and Django. We already know that Zam was undercosted. Let's see about Django. Where's Django fall in? Django with Force, also undercosted. I don't think anyone's surprised to see that. All right, any more 8s? Mike Clark flying the 2 IGs, B and D. Let's see where the IGs fall. IG... 88B is slightly undercosted, and D is also slightly undercosted. So again, we're seeing confirmations that these ships are, I don't want to say these ships, that Bohan's model is somewhat accurate. And I think for those of us that are the big number folks, we're not surprised to see that at all. I actually think this is quite interesting. So what does that mean? Well, if you go back to a couple episodes before where we were talking about efficiency in the list, let me go back in here and we're going to sort this. We actually want to sort it the other way. and we start to see that, oh my gosh, all of these ships, you can build lists out of them and do well in a tournament just based on his model alone. Like that list that I actually really still want to fly, but the Ahsoka and the 7B with CLT Luminara and two 7B Jedi Knights, that's in this model. That's an incredibly efficient list, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see that put together and do well in a future extended tournament. So we also see Cicero in here. Sassy 10, Sunfac with Ensnare, like all of these ships, like Kyle Katarr with Moldy Crow. Sorry, I'm geeking out a little bit here. I think it's very interesting that the results we're seeing from the most recent tournament, from the top list, are having some correlation in Bohan's model. So I'm really curious as who's going to list build specifically off of this model. I think it can be done. I'm really, really curious now about what kind of first order list you could get built completely off this model and how that would fly. Now, there's always going to be pilot skill that's going to be involved in this. There's going to be pilot experience. There's going to be dice variance that's going to play into there. But I think overall, this model really helps, at least as a guide, to help build your list around, especially if you want to do well. Now, all of that being said, is this could very well be an extreme case of confirmation bias, in that I was hoping to see some correlation between these two, and I am seeing it. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is there. That very well could be the case. I encourage you to look at your numbers yourself and kind of form your own opinions based off of that. But it's something that I would, if you want to look at your list building the way that some sports teams have looked at, whether it's Moneyball in baseball, if you watch the movie, it was the idea of winning games through getting more runs, through the mathematical efficiency on that. Football's kind of doing the same way. There's a couple episodes where D goes on a huge long rant about what the numbers and the statistics mean. So if you're interested in that stuff at all, look at Bohan's model, and he's put it out there for everyone to see, and build some lists around that. And let me know what you come up with. All right, I'm going to keep this episode short today because it is my birthday. That's right, happy birthday to me. And I'm going to go out and do some stuff with some friends. But got to pull up my notes here. So, again, if you'd like to support the podcast, please consider leaving a review on however it is you consume it. You can find me if you want to support financially. You can find me at patreon.com/saltminesxwing. Or if you want to reach out and contact me directly, you can tweet me at saltxwing, or shoot me an email at saltminesxwing@gmail.com. And as you know, I like to end every podcast with a question. So this podcast question is, what's the most efficient list that you can build using his model? All right, that's Sailor Joe, signing off.
You're not alone.